Hey everybody, Trey Griggs here at Beta Consulting Group for episode 70 of Standing Out. We are coming to you live from the TMSA Level Up Conference right here in Orlando, Florida. And we got my good friend Holly LaBoda on the show today. She's going to be talking to us about what she does at Luminaries Consulting. But first, we got to bring up the executive director of the TMSA, Jennifer Carpus-Romaine. Jennifer, we've had an awesome show. It's been just fabulous. We've had 2 great days here. If you aren't at the TMSA, you definitely need to come next year in Savannah, Georgia. So it's going to be an awesome show next year. So it's wonderful. What's been the highlight of the show for you so far?
Getting to see everybody live in person and showing everybody what TMSA is up to. And I do want to give a special shout out and thank you to Trey for being our MC at this event. Let's give him a round of applause. He's done such an awesome job making things fun and exciting while I got to worry about making sure everyone had a name badge. So it's really great to have an MC at your show. Thanks, Trey.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and start our podcast, which is the first time I've ever done this. We're just going to start walking, Holly and I. It's going to be a great time. Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you soon. All right, so we're going to be with you in just a minute. We got to get to the hallway. Holly, this is crazy. We've never done this before. First time ever doing this. Shout out to our sponsor, TAFS. Check them out at TAFS.com. They're the good guys in freight factoring. They're helping customers have the resources that they need for all the operations, the capital needs that they have, discounts, all that kind of stuff. So check them out at TAFS.com or click on the link to TAFS in the show today to find out more about how TAFS can help you out in that regard. And visit our website, betaconsultinggroup.com, see how we can help you out with your branding strategies and things like that. All right, so Holly, real quick, tell everybody, 30 seconds, who are you?
Holly LaBoda with Luminaries Consulting, and my company helps logistics organizations get, keep, and grow their ideal clients.
That's awesome. I love that. And we got a lot going on here at TMSA, by the way. So if we look right over here to our left, you can see the freight coach right there doing his show. He's doing his thing. We're not going to bother him, though. We're going to go ahead and take a little walk. We've never done this before. Crazy to kind of do a walking podcast. Hopefully everybody can hear us. We may have to speak up just a little bit. But you've been a part of the TMSA for a long time.
A couple of years, 4 years, I think.
Yeah, a couple years. What do you love about being a part of this organization?
Well, TMSA is unique because it's made up entirely of sales and marketing people who we all know are really, really fun and really smart. And so we have lots of cool conversations. We have a blast together. Yeah,
no, it's awesome. It's great being here and just meeting so many sales and marketing professionals, a lot of creative minds. Yeah. And we have a good time. Yeah. We have a lot of fun. This is like the fun conference to be at. Not only doing a lot of great content, but we have a lot of fun. We did some TikTok dancing.
There was an epic dance party last night. We had a lot of awards we gave out for the first time, some Trailblazers awards, which is really incredible. Yeah. So, tell everybody a little about your history in the industry. How did you get into transportation? Well, I started with C.H. Robinson, and I spent about 10 years working with them in some different capacities, kind of grew up in that organization. And then 5 years ago, started my own consulting company, working with all kinds of logistics organizations, doing everything from sales strategy development to sales talent development and everything in between. So I love logistics, wanted to stay with it.
Kudos to you for betting on yourself, which is cool. Being an entrepreneur is not easy, but it is fun and very rewarding, which is awesome. What are some of the things that you learned being at an organization like C.H. Robinson, and when it comes to sales and marketing efforts, that's really helped you become a sales consultant and truly bring value to clients in that role?
Well, I learned really quickly that logistics is just a very different industry than most industries out there. And in particular, doing sales in logistics is very different. Our buyers are different. The selling process is different. It's different at every organization and kind of their based on their approach, based on their services, based on their go-to-market strategies. So there's just a lot of variety, which makes it really fun, but really challenging.
Yeah. What do you find when are you working with sales organizations that have nothing in place and you're building from the ground up? Or are you coming in and kind of helping to fix maybe some of the problems and develop some of that organization for an existing team? What's most common for you?
A little bit of both. I mean, all organizations have something. It's very rare that there's no sales at all. Although
founder sales sometimes.
Yes, there's some of that. But usually there's something.
whether that's shared knowledge, whether it's consistent, whether it's kind of repeated throughout the organization or just existing in a couple of people's heads, that's a different story. But usually there's something that's there, sometimes things that need to be kind of broken first before new things can be created, some of those things. But.
Yeah. Hey, Richard, thanks for watching the show. Appreciate it. Chris says walking podcast before, pretty awesome. Let's go to walk a little bit.
Yeah.
We're at the Gaylord Palms in Orlando, Florida, a phenomenal facility. Hopefully the sound is good. Hopefully the Wi-Fi doesn't go out. I don't know. This is like a brand new thing for us to see what happens with that.
But hopefully we don't fall down the stairs.
Exactly. Like I've never walked down the stairs recording before. So a lot of new things, a lot of firsts here. We may have to take a dip outside to the warm weather, but we're in Orlando. It's a beautiful facility. We've had a lot of fun here. It's just been great to be together. It's nice to shake hands. It's nice to hug people. Nice to have dinner together and have those conversations. Well, from a sales perspective, how valuable are trade shows now coming out of the pandemic?
I mean, so valuable. Of course, you never stop selling anytime the economy changes, the world changes, anything like that. But having these real kind of very natural conversations, there's nothing like it. Having these individual connections, having real conversations like this. So that's why these things are great.
Yeah, it's amazing just again to be together, to see a lot of people that just they know what they're doing. They're in the trenches. That's the thing. What I love about this organization is that it's not about theory. Like the people here are doing the sales and marketing every day. They're the ones that are trying to really make it happen. And it's not easy. There's a lot of work that goes into it. It's nice to be around other professionals, ask them what they're doing, ask them what's working. It's been really, really beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that everybody is just not afraid, even though we have a lot of competitors in this space, like direct competitors in the same room. People are still talking about what's going on with them, what strategies have been working. There's very little that's secret sauce when it comes to this. So let's have real conversations and all help each other grow. Right.
Yeah, no, it's cool to be a part of that. What's been your favorite highlight so far of this show?
Ooh, I loved listening to all the awards last night. So many people have done so many cool things, and we've had connections over the last couple of years, but it's not the same. It was like a unique celebratory moment where we all got to come together and say, yeah, we've been going through a lot of crazy stuff over the last couple of years, but people have also been doing some awesome things. So let's recognize that. Let's learn from each other. Let's be inspired.
Yeah, we had the Mountain Mover Award. We had a couple of others. We recognized some companies for some of the great things that they're doing. Mm-hmm. That was pretty neat to see. I think my favorite moment was the start. We did a little something fun. If you're on LinkedIn or TikTok or Instagram, you might have recognized that there was a little crazy dance going on. And what I loved about it was the people that were on stage with me at that time, I had never met them until this show. And some of them I reached out on Sunday and I said, hey, we're gonna do a TikTok dance. I hear you're somebody that might want to do it. And they were willing to do it. Like, it was really cool that people were just like, yeah, we'll have fun. We'll have a good time. That's the best thing about the TMSA is that you get people who want to have fun. The creative minds are here. The people that just want to be crazy and silly, but really get things done. So that, to me, that was like my favorite part was I felt like I was kind of initiated into the TMSA in that moment with some of the people like Patrick McFarland and Lionel Johnston and Sean LeBlanc and just so many great people. So that was a pretty fun moment for me.
It was impressive. I'm not going to lie. I was excited about it.
I don't know if I would use the word impressive. I might have a different word for that than impressive, but it certainly was fun. There's no doubt about that, which was good. Now, you're based out of Minneapolis,
yes,
Minnesota. Talk a little bit more about Luminaries Consulting. It's a two-person shop.
Yep,
correct?
Myself and a partner.
Okay.
That's who we are.
And you focus mainly on what type of companies? What's like kind of your bread and butter?
We do most of our work with logistics companies, and we didn't even really start out with the intent of specializing, but that's where our network is, and we were really surprised to learn that not a lot of people know what we do in the logistics space.
Yeah.
And logistics companies, most of us know that our business is unique, and we want somebody who can speak our language. So we don't have to do that translation.
Yeah. So
we've been like spending all our time in logistics, and we love it.
Yeah. Logistics is such a great industry because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of fast paced. It's never really the same. In fact, they just talked about that in the show today. How bids, for example, we're not going to have bid seasons anymore. It's like going to be ongoing bids and just different factors for the industry. I think that's what keeps it exciting. Yet at the same time, from a sales perspective, like that's consistent too. Like you have to have solid sales. You have to change your strategy a little bit. How do you consult with companies about the use of social media when selling? Because that's here to stay too.
Yeah.
At least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it is. And social media is tricky, especially in our space, because it's B2B, which social media is used completely differently than when you're going B2C.
Right.
Like you're not spending a bunch of money on Facebook ads when you're selling to B2C kind of companies. So B2B space, but it's really important to be thoughtful about how you're using tools like LinkedIn, because it can be either like an awesome supplement to your sales strategy, or it can be like the biggest waste of time in the world.
Right.
And so you have to figure out where the balance is and what are, like, how do you just get a presence out there? How do you build connections? How do you infuse social selling into your entrance strategy and not make it the whole thing?
Yeah, I think one thing I love about social selling is that you create the opportunity for your prospect to know you and your product before you ever talk to them, and then to me the relationship's easier.
Yeah.
And there's a trust that can be built if you do it right with your company, with your product, with who you are.
Yep.
Before the conversation happens, as opposed to in the past where you had to be a really good cold caller or a really good writer for email to get someone's attention. And now there's a way to kind of subtly do that and potentially like build a kind of a virtual relationship before you start talking to them on the phone. I think that if it's done right, can make the process a little bit easier.
Absolutely. And there's still a place for the calls. There's still a place for the emails, but you figure out how to blend some of that social stuff in, either to warm up the lead or to follow up and make those connections and keep the conversations going.
Yeah.
And that's where the beauty is.
Yeah. For those of you that are watching, is this working? Like, can you hear us okay? There's a little music in the background. There's a pool, which actually sounds kind of nice because we're here in Florida and it's a little bit more humid than the Midwest. I'm a St. Louis guy.
Yeah.
You're a Minnesota girl. So, you know, we're not used to this level of humidity. The pool doesn't sound too bad, but hopefully this is working for everybody. First time we've ever done this. Excellent sound. Thanks, David. Appreciate you hearing that. Cool. Let's walk back this way.
Okay.
Let's just kind of see. We're just having fun today. We're just kind of seeing what's up with it. So are you from Minnesota originally? Have you lived there your whole life? Did you move there at some point? What's all that?
I was born and raised in Minnesota. I moved
You don't
away,
have the Minnesota. No.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes out a little bit, especially after a margarita or two. But
when you relax, that's when it really...
Right.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
you can hear the long O's every once in a
Yeah,
while.
yeah.
But yeah, born and raised there, moved away for a little bit after college, and then the Midwest has a way of like sucking people back in, so I came back home.
It does. There's no place like home.
Yeah.
And the Midwest is pretty good living. Taxes are usually pretty low. So it's a lot of fun to be in the Midwest as well. What's your favorite thing about being in Minnesota? Like, what do you just love about up there? And people who've never been there before, like, what's the call?
I've lived in places where the seasons don't change, and I love the change of seasons. You know, the weather's getting weird the last couple of years, but I love a fall. I love a spring. I even love the winter, and there's always things to do out there. You know, the summers, everybody's outside because we know they're short. So we spend all the time in the lake, all the time on the patios. It's great.
Are you an ice skater?
I actually was a competitive figure skater
Were
growing
you
up.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't planning to share that piece of information.
You just never know what's going to come out here. So you're a figure skater, you're competitive, That's cool. Which season is your favorite? I've got a favorite season. Which season is your favorite?
Fall's my favorite. It's
That's
so
what I'm
fleeting.
talking about. That's
the
what
color
I'm talking
change,
about.
It's beautiful. The air is crisp. Not a pumpkin spice latte girl, but you can enjoy them if that's your thing.
I'm a pumpkin guy.
Yes.
Not a pumpkin spice latte
Real
guy.
pumpkin.
But I like pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
I like pumpkin bread. That's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Big fan of pumpkin bread.
It's good stuff.
But I think what I like the most about the fall is, you know, when the weather gets a little bit cooler, you want to put on a pair of jeans and the leaves change colors. Like, you know, there's just nothing better than kind of walking outside and seeing, you know, these beautiful trees that are lit up. When you go places that don't have seasons, around, and I kind of like that variation, which is actually pretty nice. Hey, for those of you who've never been to the Gaylord, I figured I'd give you a quick little tour. Check this out. So there's a really cool facility. Look at this. It's like got a nice dome up there. Just absolutely amazing. Really cool place. If you haven't been down here, the water park is killer. Like, if you bring kids down here, it's just absolutely nuts. It's a really great place for that, for sure. Yeah, so fall's my favorite season. I love that. I love the fact that we have a fall, which is great. But summer, you're on the lake and you are out on the deck. That's kind of your thing?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. We have a lake place up in northern Minnesota, and we spend as much time as we can.
I hear that's amazing up there.
Yeah, it is really great.
That's incredible. What do you think about, you know, from a sales perspective? You know, work from home was here for the last 2 years. It's still kind of hanging on. Yeah. People want it. How do you feel about that from a sales perspective? Because I think sales is one of the first jobs that kind of went remote long ago. I started working remotely in 2016 in sales, working from home. So that's something that's not necessarily new to sales. What are your thoughts here as we come out of the pandemic in terms of how's that going to shake out moving forward? Or is it going to be, you know, virtual from a sales perspective? Does it matter? What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I think it's a smart thing to do. I think it's here to stay. I think a lot of people have learned for a lot of roles that we were more ready for the virtual world than we thought we were. Personally, I think more of the fear or more of the trepidation comes from the side of leadership. I don't know how to manage that way. I think my culture requires people to be in person. FYI, your culture is more than a pizza party or a ping pong table. So there's lots
100%.
of ways to keep that up by saying virtual. But in sales, like we're working with our buyers. If you're not out on the road, or if you are, that balance that you get in life with working virtually is great.
Yeah.
And you're going to still have an element of a virtual sales process too, regardless of your approach. So I think it works for salespeople. I hope it stays.
Yeah, I think so too. And when you think, I think you said the key word, and that is, I think that managers and leaders are probably fearful that they don't know how to lead virtually, because it's a new skill set.
Yeah.
It requires different technologies. It requires different things for visibility. It requires more intentional communication than just walking down the hall and some of those types of things. So I think that the biggest thing for this is, I agree with you, I think sales virtually is here to stay, but the leadership component is really critical.
Mm-hmm.
How much are you talking to leaders about how to manage their teams remotely versus, sitting in like a sales floor?
We do a lot more in leadership, because from my perspective, if you're going to invest in your salespeople, if you're going to invest in your account managers, you have to do that on the leadership side too. Otherwise, it's going to be a wasted investment. The leaders are the ones that are going to make sure that things are integrated into your daily life, that people have accountability to have things keep going, and it's not just a flavor of the month kind of concept. So leader investment is important. Leadership development is important. The remote side of it just kind of depends on how remote your workforce is, how new that is for you, and that kind of stuff. So that varies.
There's so many tools out there that can really help out. And we're going to continue this conversation, but I got to show you something really cool about the TMSA. You know how when you go to conferences and then they put out the snacks, and if you're busy, you might miss the snacks. And you're like, oh, I didn't get the snacks. Well, we actually have the snack room, break room here. I'm going to show it to you just real quick. So if you're at TMSA and you miss out on the snacks, they just put them right over here. And there's a little workroom. Check this out. You can get coffee. You can get snacks. There's coffee over here. You can work in there. So it's a really great environment. We've thought about everything here. So make sure you come back next year, Savannah, Georgia. It's going to be an awesome time.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. So from a leadership perspective, though, there's so many tools that are helpful. And I think the biggest thing is intentional communication with your team. Finding ways to, like I know when Zoom was here to stay, when we talk about Zoom, one of the things that we would do is we would just open up a Zoom call. And it was almost like having office hours. Somebody could come in and you could put them in the waiting room, like knock on the door.
Yeah.
They could come right in, just sit there walking in your office. And so you can have some of those situations, kind of replicate those virtually, as opposed to just having them, normal. And it's things like that, just like trying to be creative as a leader to have that communication. Because you said culture is more than a ping pong table. I think culture is just communication. How are you communicating? What messages are you sharing with your team? How are you letting them know you care? How are you spending time with them? Those are the things that leaders have to maybe change the way that they're doing it now. It's no longer a walk in and just look over the shoulder, pat them on the back, take them to lunch.
Right.
Now it's an intentional phone call or a letter or something, sending them something in the mail. Just let them know that you care. I think those things just change a little bit in terms of leadership.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. It's really about being thoughtful and intentional about those things. And honestly, some of them, if you're thoughtful and intentional, are actually easier to do in a virtual environment.
Yeah.
Like having your office hours, that's so easy to do via the tools that we have nowadays. Even like some of my clients do like a happy half hour, I think they call it, where it's just like, let's join whoever wants to join. Let's just talk about nothing for a little bit, which sounds maybe like a waste of time if you're really busy, but great team building within the team. And if you think about when you're in the office, like all the 5 or 10 minute interruptions you get, just throw that into 30 minutes in 1 week. You're probably saving a bunch of time, actually.
Yeah. So you can definitely gain time back for sure. We're going to switch sides. Go to the other side because my arm is starting to get tired. This is the first time we've done this, folks. So we just got to figure it out as we go along. So this is, now I'm on the right arm, so we should be good for the rest of the show.
Nice.
Yeah, intentional leadership development. I am of the opinion that companies in general don't value this. Like they don't put resources into it. I've got a good friend, I say him all the time, Jason Lippert Components. They're in Elkhart, Indiana. Do you know Elkhart, do you know Jason?
I know of Jason.
Okay.
I don't think we've met.
So Jason's one of the most phenomenal leaders that I've ever seen because he's on a leadership journey with this entire team, and he has hired full-time people that all they do is invest in the leaders of their team. That's all their job is. He's not asking the managers to develop leaders because the managers have jobs too.
Yeah.
But they got things they got to take care of. They obviously do some leadership development, but they have people that all they do is help people become better leaders. And I think companies really need to think about that. Like, how are we identifying future leaders? How are we inviting them into leadership? How are we training them? And then how are we empowering them and putting them in a position of leadership to really make a huge impact I think a lot of companies struggle with that from a sales perspective. I think far too often sales leaders don't develop their people in sales. They're just hoping for ROI. They're just hoping for the quota. They're just hoping for the number. They're not developing them as a person. So it's a huge part of sales leadership. And this new kind of environment of virtual for everybody else, but certainly in leadership, is really important for leaders to make sure they know what their team wants. Yeah. Do they want more money? Do they want more time? If you have a kid, you might not care about money as much, or maybe you care about money more. Mm-hmm. But it changes a lot depending on circumstances in life, and you just have to know that.
It does. That was part of what I was talking about in my breakout session at the conference, is this like sales leadership development in general. And one of the stats, I'll see if I can pull it out of my head here, is that I think 1 in 5 sales leaders across all types of industries have ever had any kind of formal development in sales leadership. Because oftentimes, think about the journey that sales leaders in logistics take. They're either a successful salesperson that gets promoted. You can have your opinions on how successful that approach is, or they're a kind of operational manager, general manager that gets moved into a sales leadership role. So maybe, depending on their history, they've had sales skill development. Maybe they've had operation or management and leadership, but not ever usually the sales leadership, which is different. Think about having a one-on-one with an employee versus having a pipeline review conversation with a sales employee. They're different. They're both valuable. They have their different approach, their different skills, but we're not teaching people to do that effectively, so we wonder why our salespeople struggle.
And I think the biggest mistake, and that's why I shook my head no, the biggest mistake that I think companies make is they take their top producing salesperson and they say, oh, you know how to sell, we're going to put you in a leadership position without an intentional plan to become a leader. Because being a top sales producer is about me. It's a selfish priority. I'm going to go get it done. Usually it's just because somebody puts their head down, they work hard, they learn the skill, and they go after it. They have that skill set to produce. But then changing your priorities now as a leader, helping everybody else succeed. When you're I think of leadership, I think of a conductor of a symphony. You're no longer playing the instruments. Mm-hmm. Now you're helping everybody else play the instrument the best they can, so that the company as a whole has a really good sound. And I think that's a hard transition to make. I don't think companies think through that too often. I think they just say, you're the top producer, we're going to put you in leadership. And I see too many of them fail, and it's unfortunate.
Right, because they often will do, okay, this is what made me successful, so therefore you should all sell like me, which doesn't always work. Or they're the people who, they're producers, they're competitors, they're the ones that are hunting, and they either want to keep doing that and potentially steal deals from their people, which is not great, or you're kind of taking away that big part of their job, that big part that makes them happy, and that big revenue stream for you, and putting them somewhere else. Which,
In fact, I would even argue that if you're looking for a sales leader for your team, from somebody on your team, it's probably not your top producer. It's probably that person who you see helping other people out, who's taking time away from their job to help a new sales rep or to help somebody else with a problem or to succeed. That person actually probably has a skill set for leadership as opposed to the top producer.
Yes.
But that's kind of a contrary view.
It is.
To not take the top producer and put him in leadership. People think, well, if I'm the top producer, that's my next step. And it may not be. A high producer might just want to continue being a high producer.
Right. Well, then you have to think about, that begs the question of what's your pipeline in your company? What kind of things are you performing? Do you have to be a leader to grow, to be successful? And if that's the case, if that's the vibe that your company has, then of course people want that next promotion. But depending on your commission structure, they might make less money when they move into that.
And a lot of people don't realize that if you're a top sales producer and you want to go into leadership, that might be a little blow to your paycheck.
Yeah.
Because the highest performing person is probably, or I think should, make more than probably anybody else in the company in that regard. Sometimes even more than the CEO or founder. They're generating the revenue and bringing in life. We're going to go up an escalator. Let's just see how this works. I have no idea. But at least we don't have to walk up the escalator.
Right.
So let me ask you another question about sales from a compensation standpoint. Because I think this is another area where companies struggle. Because I'm of the opinion that compensation should reflect the behaviors that you want in your team. And that if you get the compensation plan right, a lot of times those behaviors kind of take care of yourself. What do you talk about whenever you're working with companies in regards to their compensation plans?
So I will start this by saying I am not a compensation expert, and I usually don't give advice in this space. But
who do you refer? Because I have somebody. Who do you refer for this?
Who I really like? I met her at TA, Beth Carroll.
She's Carroll. Awesome. Shout out to Beth Carroll. She was on Standing Out about 3 weeks ago. She's awesome. So if you have compensation questions, talk to her.
Yes.
What are your thoughts just about compensation in general and how that impacts performance and behavior of sales teams?
I mean, it's a huge driver, of course, for salespeople. We're all motivated by winning. Well, I shouldn't say all. Everybody's different. But it's such a clear thing where you have like, here's the metrics.
Well,
here's how I
if
know
you're
what
in
I'm
sales,
achieving.
you should
You
care
should
about winning.
be. You should
right?
be.
If you don't care
Yes.
about winning, maybe it's not the career for you.
Yes, maybe not. But it's really nice because there's so many great metrics that you can put where it's a really easy success story. I know if I'm winning or losing. That's great. And my compensation should reflect that. So think about what you want people selling, how you want your customers growing, if new or existing revenue is where you really want to spend more time on, and have your compensation structure reflect that.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to even adjust the structure if you realize it's not working.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard conversation to have because you're messing with somebody's paycheck. But I think you have to explain why, which is also an opportunity to develop leaders because those people might actually be in your shoes someday. And you may not get the compensation plan right the first time. But getting it right is more important than having a bad plan and not addressing it in some form or fashion. Because again, when the comp plan is right, I think the behaviors kind of take care of themselves. I remember when I was a sales rep starting out, they would give us the comp plan every year based upon the products and the commissions or the percentages that we would get. And of course, like any, I think good salesman, I'd look at it and go, where can I make the most money?
Yeah.
What can I sell here that's going to help make me the most money? And again, if you think about those kind of things, it's going to help, help the performance, help the behavior kind of take care of themselves. No one had to tell me what to sell. I took the comp plan and went, oh, that's what they want me to sell.
Right.
Because that's where I can make the most money. Right?
Yeah, so that's why you have to be really thoughtful about that because people are going to be thinking that way. They're going to try to think about how they can game the system a little bit to get the most. We all would. Be really thoughtful about how you're setting that up.
Yeah, exactly. So there's so many issues to kind of talk about in that regard. Before I forget, how can people find out more about you and about Luminaries Consulting?
Have a conversation. That's the best way. So I'm on LinkedIn. I think I'm probably tagged in this or something.
You will
Trey
be.
does all that cool stuff. So I'd love to talk. We work with all kinds of logistics companies and all kinds of things sales related. So just having conversations, doing a little discovery and free consulting is where I like to start.
Well, speaking of a high performer, Joshua Harrison right there. Do you know this guy? Do you know Joshua Harrison?
I don't.
You should follow Joshua Harrison. Joshua, thanks for watching today. Appreciate it. So Joshua just ran, I think he ran 78 miles without stopping. He was going for a 100-miler, which is nuts. Josh, you're nuts. But he did 78 miles to raise money for Ronald McDonald House Charities in West Michigan. I think he raised like $20,000 or even something like that. Really cool thing. And he is a high performance salesperson as well. And there's also a connection between like the health of your mind, the health of your body, and your performance in sales. Mm-hmm. I find that some of the best sales reps out there, the most high performing reps, are ones that are constantly trying to sharpen their mind. A lot of them are also in relatively good health. They're trying to take care of their bodies, and then their performance goes up from there. In my own case, I lost 42 pounds like about 10 years ago, and I remember that was the sharpest that I felt like my mind was, and my sales actually improved considerably from that point. Sure. What's the correlation between taking care of your mind, feeding your mind with good information, growing, and being a high performance salesman?
I think there's a big one. And congrats to Joshua. I would never take on a challenge like that. So you're amazing.
Killer.
Like hats off. 100%.
He's got more coming up. So you should follow him because he's got more of these types of extreme sports coming up to raise money.
I will.
So definitely follow him.
I will. So I will never take on anything like that. I've run 2 marathons in my past, and I will never do another one again. Thank you.
That's nothing to laugh at.
But think about all of the things that I think about the things that are like sales correlated that are related to that. So think about planning for a marathon or planning for this crazy 78-mile run. You have a goal that's put out there. You're really clear in what you're trying to achieve, and you have to set up a process to work towards it. You don't just go out there and say, well, I'm going to run 78 miles tomorrow. I'm going to hope that it works out. I'll just run a little bit for the next couple of years and then hope I get there. Right. You have a training plan. You have metrics that's established. You're committed to the process, and the outcome happens when you do the process. That's how sales is, too. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. Yeah, it's just the equation pretty much. It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
So I think for people out there that want to improve their sales, I would say start reading, start working out a little bit. Start trying to make your life better, sharpen your skills, because it's inevitably going to make you perform better in your job. And that's actually true for anybody, but certainly true for performance positions like sales, without a doubt. Well, Holly, listen, we're at 30 minutes. We pulled this off.
Oh my gosh!
This actually worked, and hopefully you guys could hear us. Holly LaBoda is amazing. She just said last minute, yeah, I'll do it. And so I really appreciate that. It's so cool to be a part of the TMSA, to be here. And again, if you didn't make it to TMSA this year, make sure that you come next year, Savannah, Georgia. Incredible people here. Amazing people in the transportation industry, focused on sales and marketing. Blythe Brumley spoke. Chris Jolly spoke. Holly, we missed your walk-up song.
I know.
We will get your walk-up song next year. No, it's a dream moment, everybody. So make sure you're there because you get to see it. But it's going to be great. And so it's just fun being here. Thank you for being a part of the show. I hope you'll come back and see us soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So everybody, make sure you follow Holly on LinkedIn. We'll put some links in there so it's easy to do. Check her out at Luminaries Consulting, what she's doing with sales organizations to help them become high performance. And thank you so much for watching. Make sure you come back tomorrow. I'm going to have a great episode with my friend Chris Torrance at 10:30 a.m. Central. I'll be back home in St. Louis. I'm excited about that. And again, a shout out to our sponsor, TAFS. These are good guys in Freight Factory. Check them out at TAFS.com or click on the link that Morgan put in the comments in the show. And we will see you guys tomorrow for another episode of Standing Out, a daily podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership powered by Beta Consulting Group. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.